Good morning. Today we're going to be taking a look at how we can use objects inside an array and an array list so we can do some cool stuff with them. We're going to be using the debug duck class. You may have seen this before in some of my other videos. It's just a quick little class that works with debug ducks. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about using objects in an array. So we have a private array of debug duck type called ducks. And in our constructor, we've got some code. We're going to say ducks is a new debug array of size 5. And so we'll say ducks sub 0 is a new debug duck. And we're going to call it greenie. And so there's greenie in the 0th spot. And then duck sub 1 is a new debug duck, and we'll call it magenta. So we'll put our magenta duck on there as well. And then we have ducks sub 2 is a new debug duck, blue. And we have our new debug duck, blue. And we have ducks yellow for sub 3. And duck sub 4 is a new debug duck called Bluetooth. So as you can see, we have an array of ducks right here, and so we have that basic structure we're working with as we go through that. So we want to call the methods on the ducks, and so we have our private void useDucks method. We can test out these ducks different in here. As we're going to do ducks sub 0 set name ver. So instead of being greenie, this guy is now called ver for the French word for green. Okay, and we'll just turn him right there just so we can see that he's been affected. And so debug duck temp is now ducks sub 2. So we're going to talk about this guy right here. And this ducky, we're going to say temp.update question count and temp.get color. So update question count, his question count that this duck, when we talk about the duck that this duck has answered, their question count's been updated by 1. It goes up by 1 for that. And then get color, a method that returns a string for the color represented. But right now, because there's nothing there, hey, no big deal, we didn't store anything with it. Then we'll say system.out.println and temp.getColor. We'll actually retrieve the color from this, and it'll return printout blue on our screen. And then when system.out.println ducks sub 4 get question count, so 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 right here, and we'll ask this Bluetooth duck to say, hey, how many questions have you answered? And we'll return the correct number of questions that that duck has answered. So we can use the information inside that. So there's our array of ducks. We processed information right here with using set name. We changed it to be there. We went over here to sub 2, and we said that this one is now a reference to a variable on this called temp, and we asked it to update its question count and get its color that did nothing with it, and then we printed out the color from that. We also went over to sub 4 and print out its question count as well. So we also want to manipulate an array as a parameter. So now I have an array right here of ducks. I'll just use this ducks array that we currently had, and we'll call a debug duck array called D. Again, we're just using the quick little abbreviation. I don't normally like that, but I'm out of paper here too, so that's the way it works. So then we have for int I as index. So inside our loop, we have for int index is equal to z, index is less than d.length, index plus plus. So I'm going to go through the array one at a time, going through all of our ducks inside that. If d subindex.get question count is greater than 100, I'm going to replace d subindex with a new debug duck called new duck. And so as I go through this, I'll iterate over my debug ducks array. And it's like, okay, this question count, say it's 1. Okay, that's definitely less than 100. No worries. 200. Oh, this debug duck magenta, we're going to take it out. We're going to put a new debug duck in. And it's called new duck. And we'll just put it right there. So we've got a new green duck. 5, 7, 36. No changes there. And so now we have our array of ducks that we've been working with as debug duck array D. But because it's an array and I used the reference of the address inside that using a for loop right here like this, I'm able to replace the contents of that array parameter because I'm affecting the internal state of the object when I use the sub-index access. So I've changed the contents of my array by talking to this duck because I did a question count right here. I asked for the method on that. I checked against some arbitrary value. And then I said d subindex is a new debug duck, passing a new duck. In this case, there's a new green duck called new duck, and it's facing that direction. So we have some information attached to it right there. So we've worked with an array on that and gone from there. We also need to be able to work with our ducks inside a list. So we have ducks in a list, and we have a private array list called of type debug duck called myducks. Great name. Inside our constructor, we're going to initialize myducks to be a new array list of debug duck type. Okay, great. Call its constructor right there. And then we're going to say that myducks.add, and we're going to say a new debug duck of named yellow. So I'll go ahead and I'll grab my new yellow duck. I'll grab my new yellow duck. So I have my array list right here called myducks. Yeah, an array list has got this cute little pattern. Yep. Okay, and so a new duck, and I'm going to put it right here inside my list. There's my duck. I'm going to say debug duck temp is a new debug duck called magenta. And I'll use magenta duck for that. And I'm going to say my new debug duck temp right there, magenta. I'm going to add it at spot 1. So I'm going to use the add with a 2-parameter add, where the first parameter is the index I want to add that to. The second parameter is the object I'm adding. So here's my temp duck of magenta. I'm going to put it at not spot 0, but at spot 1. Now, because I'm using the add index and I put it at spot 1, I can add to that spot because it's a-okay to add at the end of the value. Totally okay. 1 is a valid answer for a 1 is a valid parameter for a list of size 1 because I can add to the end, no problem. I'm going to do myducks.add, and I'm going to pass it a new debug duck called blue, and that's going to add it to the end of the list right here. So now I have a new debug duck blue at the end of the list, and then I'm going to say myducks.set 0, and a new debug duck green. So I'm going to replace 0th spot, the yellow duck, with a new duck that's green right here. So now I have an array list right here of ducks in a list. So I've added and created a list of ducks, and I've used the add with a single parameter right here. I've used the add with 2 parameters right here, and I've also used the set method, replacing the value of a duck using that. So just a quick review of how array lists work as well. The last thing we want to do is we want to review the concepts of how we can work with a for each loop using objects inside an array list. And so we have a for each with objects, and so we have a private void demo loop, just a quick little easy method to throw things through. And so for for debug duck current inside myducks, I'm going to say current.update question count. So this debug duck right here, the green one, its question count goes up by 1, this question count goes up by 1, and this question count goes up by 1 as well. So all their questions of this list of ducks have been updated by 1. Wonderful stuff. Then I'm going to say the same loop again, so for debug duck temp colon myducks. I'm going to go through the list of ducks again, but this time temp.update question count, okay, boop, update question count, and then I'm also going to print out the get name and the get question count. So I'm going to print that out, so it'll just be green and then 1. Pink, actually, so green 2, magenta 2, blue 2, because I've gone through and I iterate over that because I've already done that question count once right here, update question count again right here, I've done that right there, and I'm retrieving the name and the question count and putting it here as a nice little concatenated string right there inside a println statement. So I have a line for each of those happening right there, and so that's what's happening inside that lovely sequence. And so it's just a quick review of how we can do objects with lists, with arrays, and call methods on them. And so that's a quick little thing you can practice to work with that when you're using an object or an array list and objects in an array as well. Thanks again, and have a great day.